pawns to control the center, so he takes back with the pawn. G takes f5. So that's what he plays. The G pawn takes the f pawn on f5, and now move 14 coming up. Now here is a move that you and I, when we looked at this game previously, we said,
I wouldn't have even considered it.
I would never. Yes, neither would I. I look at this and I say,
I would say I'm going to develop my bishop, connect my rooks.
Yeah, exactly. Or I would have actually maybe attacked that knight,
or kick the knight.
Kick the knight. But this move,
this is not have even considered this.
No, neither will I. I mean, this is what makes Petrosian the
world champion.
The world champion, the genius that he is. So he brings the knight back to d1, knight d1. All right. So now this gives Spassky an opportunity to now operate on the queen side. He now can play b5. So he plays b5 now because it's adequately defended. I mean, he's attacking this pawn, but this pawn on c4 is adequately defended. But this pawn, nothing is gained by taking the pawn because it can be taken back with the a pawn. All right, so after b5, move 15 for Petrosian. What does he do?
Now he's going to play f3.
Okay.
So it makes it look like this is what he had been thinking, is perhaps bringing the knight to there.
Well, now it makes sense. He would like to kick that knight out of there.
Right.
But if this knight were not on d1, this knight on g4 would sink into e3 and fork the queen and the rook. Right. So that move, knight d1, now becomes obvious that it actually controls the e3 square and stops the knight from going in there and forking queen and rook.
Right.
All right. All right. So now what does Spassky do after f3, right? You would think the knight would retreat.
Would move, right.
You would think the knight would actually retreat maybe back to h6 or maybe back to f6. But you know what Spassky did? He advances the pawn to e4. Now, why does he do this? Why does he leave that knight that's under attack and advance the pawn? Because what's his threat?
His threat is threatening the rook.
He's threatening this bishop to take the rook. And what's that called when you give up? You take a minor piece and you win a major piece. That's called winning the exchange. Well, all right. So what is Petrosian going to do? I'm sorry. What is Petrosian going to do? Right. Yeah. What's going to do? He's got the bishop attacking the rook on a1. So it's very easy to stop that.
Right. And that's by virtue of having put the queen here earlier.
Right. Okay. So the bishop goes to b2, and now Spassky takes f3. So he does take the pawn on f3 with the pawn. Okay. Now what does Petrosian do? How does he recapture?
He's got three ways to recapture.
Yes.
The knight, the rook, or the bishop.
3 ways. What's the correct way, according to Petrosian?
According to Petrosian, was
he took with the bishop. So bishop takes f3. All right. So now Spassky, the bishop on g7, captures the bishop on b2. Okay. And now that forces him to take with the queen. He's not going to take.
He's not forced to, but.
But the trouble is, if he took with the knight.
Oh, right.
The knight. See that. There's a reason why that knight's on d1.
Right.
To control that e3 square. All right. So bishop queen takes.
And the other virtue of it is now the queen's on that long diagonal.
Right. Exactly. All right. So queen takes b2. All right. So now Spassky would like to hold on to that knight. So he sinks back here. Knight goes to e5. Now what's his threat? I see a threat now. I see 2 threats. You see this pawn on c4?
Right.
How many times is black attacking that pawn?
So black's attacking it 3 times.
3 times. And how many times is it defended?
It's defended twice.
Only twice.
Right.
So there's a threat of actually taking here and winning a pawn here.
Right.
There's also a secondary threat of just taking the knight, taking the bishop, and eliminating the light-squared bishop. There's 2 possible threats here.
Right.
What Petrosian did is what? He doesn't want to lose this pawn, but he also doesn't want to lose the bishop.
Right.
So he just
takes care of both.
Right.
Defends it another time.
Right. Saves the bishop, and the bishop now adds the further defense of the pawn on c4. All right. So bishop e2 is what he played, and this is actually a turning point in the game. Right now, black is doing fine. White is not crushing black in any way, but this is where I think computer analysis, I've seen some analysis of this, where the computers, one computer I saw say, just bring this rook on A8 up to A7, lift it, and bring it over. Bring it over, like the double on the F file, or possibly even bring it to G7, on the, but probably stronger doubling on the F file.
Right.
But what Spassky did, he did this. He played F4. He advances the pawn.
Which is pretty aggressive.
It's pretty aggressive. Wait a minute. Isn't he actually offering a pawn? I mean, this, wait a minute. The only thing protecting that pawn is the rook.
Right.
But we have two pieces, a rook and a pawn, threatening that pawn.
Right.
So it looks like, for example, that pawn could be won. And what did Petrosian do after Spassky played F4? Did he take this pawn?
He did take it.
He did take it.
He did take it.
And he took it with the pawn. G takes F4. Okay, so G takes F4. Now, what are we doing now? Now, here is where I think Spassky made a mistake. What he should have done here, and if we go on the board, if we get the camera actually on this position, here is where Spassky could have played. He could have played rook takes F4, right? And, and then
if white takes
back, black can play queen to G5 check, and he's going to recapture the rook. Right, exactly.
Yep.
So that's actually what Spassky should have played. Okay, so the pawn is here, but what he did instead, and I can understand why he played F4 in the first place, so he could actually allow the bishop to come down to H3 and attack the rook. Okay, so what is Petrosian doing here? Bishop is on H3, attacking the rook. We have the move 21 coming up for white, and this, to me, is probably the most brilliant move of the game. I mean,
again, it's
neither you or I we would consider trying to save our rook by moving it.
Right. So we're either going to move the rook over
or stay on the file. Yes, right.
Yeah.
But this move by Petrosian is so amazing that this makes him, a genius. What he played was
plays 93.
93. Wow.
Allowing.
Exactly. And Spassky did not hesitate at all when he saw that move. He took the bishop and captured the rook on F1. So he's won the exchange.
Right.
He's won a rook for a bishop. All right, so now what is Petrosian doing now? How does he recaptures with the rook. So now he has all right. So now with this rook, he is now threatening to take this piece, right?
Right.
All right, so this piece on E5 has to move. So he has to retreat it. And what he did, Spassky, he played knight G6. That was his 22nd move. And by the way, by retreating the knight and the rook are now attacking this pawn on F4, which is only defended by the rook.
Right.
All right, now what does Petrosian do on his 23rd move? Now this is another incredible move. We think about, for example, maybe trying to maybe advance the pawn.
Right, save the pawn.
Save the pawn.
That would be my first instinct.
Yes.
My pawn's tacked twice. I would think I'd want to save it, but
okay. But Petrosian instead played that
G4, which doesn't immediately do anything.
Right. So, but this is what Spassky, when he saw this move, Bishop G4, said, "Wait a minute, I'm going to win this pawn. I'm going to take this pawn with the knight. Knight takes F4. That's what he did. Okay. And what did Petrosian do now?
He's going to give up another exchange.
He gives, because now Spassky responded with rook take. He says, doesn't he take here?
Yeah.
He takes rook takes F4. And now he has won 2 exchanges. Spassky is 2 rooks ahead. Petrosian's given up 2 minor pieces for this.
Right.
All right, so where do we stand now?
But this is the critical thing here is bishop to e6 check.
Check.
So now he's got this diagonal and this diagonal.
Right, exactly, right. All right, so what he does here, he realizes...
he has no choice.
He comes back and blocks the check with this rook. Rook F7, so he plays rook F7.
Right.
That was his move. Now it's the 26th move coming up for Petrosian. What does he do?
He's going to bring in the knight to assist with the attack.
So now he's using his forces, his minor pieces. He's coordinating these minor pieces, knight e4. And this is where Spassky, realizes he's got to try to see counterplay here. He plays the queen on d8, which he has to move the whole game.
Right.
And it comes out to h4. Here, on h4, the queen, isn't the queen attacking this undefended knight on e4? All right.
Yep.
So what does Petrosian do now? He's got a knight under attack. So what he does is
Takes the pawn
on
on
move
D6.
27, he just snaps the pawn on d6. And now we have two minor pieces attacking this rook. He's threatening actually to get rid of that rook.
Which is pinned.
That's pinned. So now is, I believe, after he did the knight takes the d6, Spassky went queen g5 and attacks, is checking the king.
Right.
And also attacking the knight.
Attacking the knight.
Right. All right. So what does Petrosian do now?
Just slides the king aside.
Right. King goes, it looks dangerous to be in the corner like this, especially when you have a queen on this file and a rook on this file. It looks very dangerous to have the king on h1.
But that rook is pinned, so it's not going anywhere.
Okay. And this is where Spassky realizes he has to come to the defense of this rook.
Right.
So he brings this rook. This rook comes to a7, rook a7. Can't move this rook over to a7 because it's pinned, but he can move this rook on a8 to a7 and add a further defender to this rook on f7. All right. Now what happens now? So it's the 29th move for white, and he captures with check. Bishop takes f7, the rook f7 check, and Spassky retakes. Rook takes f7. Okay, and now what do we see here? Now we see a beautiful.
Now, the question is, can a viewer?
Now, actually, let's look at the position. Can the people see that? Now, if you move your leg a bit, maybe they can see it. Okay. Yep. Oh, they got a good view. All right. Look at this position. Now, can our viewers see what forced Spassky to resign this game immediately after Petrosian's next move? We'll give them
5 seconds.
Only 5 seconds. Yeah, we're not too generous with our time, are we? All right. This is what. Well, tell our viewers what Petrosian played here.
So the winning move.
What is the winning move here?
If you haven't seen it, which is a pretty amazing move, is queen h8 check.
Which queen h8 check, forcing Spassky's resignation because he did not want to face this. He did not want to see king takes.
It's his only move.
h8, and this would allow knight takes f7, rook check.
Forking.
The king has to move. Say the king moves to g7, and now the knight takes on g5, and he's a full piece up. With a pawn majority on the queen side, with a full piece, a knight, and 4 pawns versus 3. This is an easy win. Even for a not so skilled player. Even a beginner might win this. So, Chess fans, we hope you enjoyed the game that Dave Kuchar and I presented to you. We hope you join us next time for another fascinating game on the next episode of Chess Chat. See you then.